Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Rangers lose to the Dallas Stars in overtime by a score of 5-4. The Rangers actually had a 3-0 lead early in the first period, but didn't matter. Dallas scores 2 goals in the first, 1 in the second. Rangers actually take the lead on a power play goal late in the third, give themselves a 4-3 lead, but Keandre Miller makes a really bad turnover, leads to Dallas tying the end but 4, and then Artemi Panarin takes a penalty in overtime, and the Stars win it by a final score of 5-4. So the Rangers, this is probably the closest they came to winning 2 games in a row. To my recollection, Rangers have not won 2 in a row since November 19th, and that still stands. And I guess technically this is the first time they've had points in back-to-back games. I mean, that doesn't really mean a whole lot at this point. So the Rangers' record is now 18-20-2. And a lot to discuss in this one for sure. And there were some positives, but also a lot of negatives. And just Dallas was the better team in this game. I mean, the fact, even though the Rangers were up 3-0, even within that, Dallas definitely had a lot more opportunities than the Rangers did. And eventually they were able to cash in on those chances with, again, 2 goals in that first period, which that was really huge right there. And so it's a rare Ranger loss when leading after 1. But again, they technically were leading, but it didn't feel that way when the period ended. It was the second Ranger game that went to overtime this season, the other being the home opener against Utah. So Rangers 0-2 in games that go to the 3-on-3 overtime session. Jonathan Quick, unfortunately, does not get his 400th NHL win. So that's now 2 straight chances where that did not happen against Washington, and now this game against Dallas. Let's talk about a couple of injuries as well. So one that we already knew about, and now Chris Kreider has been placed on IR. So it's termed an upper body injury. It seems as if it's a back issue. Just based on, I guess, rumblings. I mean, it hasn't been confirmed by the Rangers, but that seems to be the sentiment, is that it's a back injury for Chris Kreider. So I don't know. He'll be out at least through the, let's see, I guess he'd be out at least through the Vegas game. So the earliest that I believe he could return would be the Colorado game a week from now. So we'll see. Again, backs, I mean, it's kind of an unknown situation. I think it's probably explains a little bit as to the struggles that he was dealing with. I also, towing the line. I think you got to acknowledge it, but at the same time, they had him as a healthy scratch. It would have been easy for them to just say, hey, this is an actual injury, a back injury. So when he was healthy scratch versus the Devils, that was definitely a statement made when they didn't necessarily have to do it. Still on the IR front, Igor Shesterkin. It seems like he's close. In fact, maybe even as soon as the Devil game coming up, he could be back. But in this game, it was Louis Domingue was the backup. But again, I think Igor, it's a matter of maybe a game or two, where unless there's a setback. So I think he'll be back fairly soon. Unfortunately, in this game, I guess one more bit of roster news. Matt Rempe was sent down upon Arthur Kaliev being claimed off waivers from the Los Angeles Kings. Kaliev was a healthy scratch in this one, but Rempe was sent down for that to happen. So there could be, you can't have more than 23 men on the roster. But then once Kreider was placed on IR, Rempe was called back up. So this game against Dallas was the 8th and final game of Rempe's suspension. And it's kind of ironic that, well, first off, Dallas was the game that he got the suspension from, but the fact that the next game is against the Devils, and if there's one team that you associate Rempe with as far as just a fan base that hates him the most, it's definitely the Devils. And so you'd have to think there's a decent enough chance that he plays in that game. That all said, they're going to want to get Arthur Kaliev in there. So I recorded a short on that. Didn't really expand too much on it, but I think he'll get an opportunity of some sort. This Chytil injury, it does open, and that's another thing too to consider. Which I guess I didn't get. I jumped the gun there, but I guess I'll mention now. Filip Chytil leaves this game with an upper body injury, so always a concern. And the last he played, I think, was maybe 4 minutes left in the second period. But you don't find out until he's not back out there for the third. So everything seemed normal and fine. All of a sudden, they come back from the intermission, and he's not out there. And it is an upper body injury, so that's concerning when it comes to Heedle, and it's hard not to think that it's not concussion related. Just that's what it is with him. So that may make decisions easier. As far as because you got to get Rempe and Kaliev. You would think both are considerations to be placed in the lineup, but we'll see. But there could be some maneuvering going on for the forwards. This heel injury will tell a lot as well. But I have to guess that he's going to be out at least a little bit. I mean, even in the best case scenario, unless it was completely unrelated, which I just have a hard time believing. I think it's, again, something related to do with his previous head injuries. Just not good. And again, Heedle had been playing very well lately. Not so much in this game, but certainly before that. And who knows, maybe the reason why he maybe wasn't as good in this game was due to this upper body injury. So, I guess let's jump into it. And, the lines and D pairs were the same as it was last game. So Zach Jones is the healthy scratch on defense. And Johnny Brodzinski was in that Chris Kreider spot on the left side with Zibanejad and Riley Smith. I guess before we get into some of the, actually no, let's go into what transpired, and we'll have discussions along the way as we go through it. So Jonathan Quick versus Jake Ottinger. Dallas at this point was coming in on I believe, a 4-game winning streak. I mean, Stars are one of the better teams in the NHL without a doubt. The real reason why the Rangers beat Dallas, and Dallas was Igor Shesterkin was playing out of his mind that night. And this game, Dallas was the better team. No question about it. And to me, especially in the first 40 minutes, first period was very much heavily slanted Dallas, even though the Rangers took a 3-0 lead. I thought the Rangers' best period probably was the third in terms of a combination of getting some chances and playing some solid defense. I thought the third actually was the best Ranger period. So where do we begin? There were not that many penalties taken in this game. In fact, there was one each period. And there actually was a power play goal on each side, which we'll talk about, and is relevant based on the last Star game. But it is a goal by Alexis Lafreniere at 6:56, his 10th goal of the season, assisted by Panarin and Lindgren. And I believe Lafreniere had been about like a 13-game goal drought, which you knew that he wasn't doing much, but I didn't know that it was to that extent. But yeah, I think it was 13 or 14 games without a goal for Alexis Lafreniere. And this was just, that line was very good in terms of creating chances and scoring goals. Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. Really, really good. Now, we'll talk about the fourth goal by Dallas, where there's a little bit of blame, but mostly on Keandre Miller. But this is what you're looking for, because I felt as if this line has not been great lately, despite the fact that the Rangers have actually been better offensively lately. That line has not been doing much, but in this game, they really exploded, particularly in the first period. So this was just a good play where quick passing from Lindgren to Panarin. Lafreniere has a little bit of space and fires a shot that deflects off of former Ranger Nils Lundqvist off of his stick and in past Ottinger. Makes it 1-0 Rangers. Then at 9:55, they're at it again. This time it's Vincent Trocheck with his 12th goal of the season from Borgen and Panarin. And this is one where just before that, Zibanejad, who has been better lately, he has been, but Zibanejad makes a really, really bad turnover. It almost ends up in the back of the Rangers net. It doesn't, and Mika was kind of, in part, the reason why it didn't happen is he kind of recovered for his mistake, but it goes back into the Dallas Stars zone, and really good pressure by the Rangers where they're just taking shot after shot after shot. So it's not like, because goals 1 and 3 are more what you'd see from the Trocheck line for goals. This one was more just hard determination to get the goal. And it ultimately ends up in a spot where Borgen takes a shot and it's tipped in by Trocheck. It'd be the first of two tip-in goals by Vincent Trocheck on this game, and it gives the Rangers a 2-0 lead. Then, not that much after, at 11:24, they do it again. And this time it's Lafreniere, his second goal of the night, 11th goal of the season, assisted by Panarin and Trocheck. So Panarin, 3 assists right there on those 3 goals, and 2 goals for Alexis Lafreniere, and a goal and assist at that point for Trocheck. He would add on to that beyond those first 3 goals. But this was, again, quick, good passing out of the defensive zone. Trocheck to Panarin, and then Panarin finds an open Lafreniere. Easy breakaway, and a very, very nice move by Lafreniere to make a little bit of a move. He opened up the 5-hole for Jake Ottinger and just tucks in the backhand for the Ranger 3-0 lead. So, but even within that, the Rangers, you could say, were somewhat opportunistic. Like these, look, a lot of these were very good chances, but Dallas as well. Dallas had better chances, and eventually they do convert on them. And Matt Duchene gets it started at 12:57. It would be a Matt Duchene goal, a 16th goal of the season from Esa Lindell. And this is a play where it's going into the Rangers zone, kind of inconsequential to the play, but Johnny Brodzinski kind of got shaken up briefly. And so it led to maybe a little bit of a late change where I think Berard hops on. Didn't really have anything to do with the goal, in my opinion, but Duchene tried to find Jamie Benn. Vakanainen is on Jamie Benn, and it ends up going off of Vakanainen's stick. So it's a pass from Duchene along the left boards to the middle. And Vakanainen, I don't know. I mean, I guess blame goes there, but he's trying to do the right thing, and it goes off of his stick and ends. So that makes it 3-1. Then Braden Strider with a pretty bad penalty, pretty obvious penalty, as he holds Logan Stankoven at 14:21, and Dallas does take advantage of this. And why that's meaningful is the Rangers' penalty kill was fantastic against Dallas in that last game, where it was 17 minutes of power play time for Dallas, and they didn't score a goal. Well, this time they do on the first chance they get, and it's Dadonov with his 11th goal of the season from Bork and Harley. And a nice play by Bork to get it towards the front of the net for Dadonov. And then he just took one shot, stopped by Quick, and then scores on the rebound. So fairly easy goal where there was not much that Jonathan Quick could do on that one. So that makes it 3-2. And that was the score at the end of the first. And in some ways, I think the Rangers were lucky to be, or in a lot of ways, based on the way that period was going, they were lucky to be leading after the first. So a 3-0 lead quickly goes away, and kind of a bad omen for what would be by the end of the night. So we go to the second period, and in the second at 1:12, it would be Nils Lundqvist hooking Mika Zibanejad to give the Rangers a power play. They don't score on that power play. The first 10 minutes of the second were definitely quieted down, which was kind of necessary for the Rangers for the fact that they were just giving up way too many chances in that first period. However, Dallas eventually gets going. I would say about the halfway point of the period. And they score, they tie it up. It's a goal by Jason Robertson, his 10th goal of the season from Dadonov and Hintz. So it's a 3-3 game. And what happens on this play is Will Borgen's stick breaks. And I'm not sure what happened in terms of, I'm not sure if the forwards were aware of the fact that Borgen had broken his stick. I'll also say Will Borgen, I think, has actually been pretty decent the last few games. Even though this was not the best situation for him, and he is part to blame, even though it was a little bit of bad luck, I think Borgen's actually been one of the better defensemen, which is not a high bar at all. I mean, this is not a very good defensive unit for the Rangers, but I think he's been okay the last few games. But eventually, Filip Chytil gives his stick to Borgen, but it's too late. Right in that moment is when Robertson goes around the net. There's not that much coverage on him for the fact that Chytil, again, has to kind of give his stick to Borgen. This should have been done way sooner. Again, it was about 30 to 40 seconds where this is a situation where Dallas is just, they're in the Ranger zone, and a huge reason. When you don't have a stick, you're basically useless. So it's kind of a man advantage. And Robertson takes a backhand shot, and it goes in. Not a great goal by Quick, in my opinion, who I thought was good. Quick had to make a lot tougher saves than Ottinger. Both did. But Quick was really tested. So even though Quick has a lot of goals, he wasn't bad in this one. But I thought that was a one that probably could have been stopped, and it ties it up at 3. And that would be the score at the end of 2. There have not been that many Ranger games this year that have been tied going into the third. Just not that many. And I thought the Rangers played a better third period where they were, putting more pressure on Dallas, more of a forecheck. And, I felt like they controlled more of the territorial advantage in the third. Again, Filip Chytil does not come out for the third period. So you're looking at a kind of a rotation where Cooley and Berard are on the wings, and it's Zibanejad, Trocheck, and Carrick at different points taking that spot. So, and I thought the fourth line of this one, especially the third, like they were looking all right. There's not much else to mention on their part except that, I thought that they were showing some energy, giving the Rangers a little bit of life. But at 11:20, Thomas Harley is called for delay game for puck over the glass. And what was a smart move by Peter Laviolette, especially with the fact that Kreider's out, Chytil is out, you have a very thinned out second power play unit. And so I understand in this situation where the first power play unit had been on for about maybe a minute and 20. There's a stoppage, and they call a timeout to give them a little bit of a rest. That ends up working out as the Rangers score on the power play, and Dallas is the number one penalty kill in all of the NHL. And Vincent Trocheck scores his second goal of the night, 13th goal of the season from Zibanejad and Fox. Another tip-in goal in front by Vincent Trocheck. And what's interesting on this one is that Trocheck was in the customary Kreider spot while Zibanejad was in Trocheck's spot. Seemed to work. Trocheck has been, in his career, even though he's not the biggest, player, he is someone that I can recall, certainly in Carolina, where he's kind of had that net front spot in these situations. So I think that he'll be all right, even though Kreider is known as, obviously, that's his, area of expertise. But Mika Zibanejad in the bumper position where Trocheck usually is, it worked out because it was actually a nice shot by Zibanejad, and Trocheck gets a stick on it, and it goes past Ottinger. Gives the Rangers a 4-3 lead with just over 7 minutes left in regulation. So the Rangers have a chance to find a way to win this game. But they don't do it. And at 17:21, Thomas Harley makes up for his mistake, that penalty that he took. He makes up for it. It's a 6th goal of the season, assisted by Sam Steele. So with less than 3 minutes left, Jonathan Quick very close to that 400th NHL win. It doesn't happen. And K'Andre Miller with an absolutely terrible turnover. He had so much time to do something with it. And at that point, it was Miller and Lindgren. Why was it that way at that point? I don't know. I'm not sure if there was the middle of a potential change going on there. I don't know if that was intentional to have those two on at the same time. But either way, Miller just holds onto the puck, and Sam Steele makes a really nice play, turns it over. And it was the Trocheck line that was on. And Trocheck took blame, which is a very, honorable, good teammate thing to do. He took some blame for that goal, and maybe he was a little bit out of position. We know that line in general, Trocheck's the most responsible. We know that Panarin and Lafreniere are not the best in their own zone, so it could be blame all the way around. But K'Andre Miller, the turnovers are absolutely unacceptable. I think trading him would be in the best interest of the team, because I still think that you can get a very good return for him. Do it now. He's been around long enough where, yes, he's young. Yes, there is upward mobility, but it's like he is what he is. Take the good with the bad. And his turnovers are frequent and at the worst times. And it's very frustrating. He's done this a lot. He has cost the Rangers a lot of games this season. And there's no more Jacob Trouba excuse. That's gone. That's long gone. So K'Andre Miller, a really, really bad job. I mean, this left side is brutal. Lindgren, Miller, Vakanainen is scary. And the right side isn't all that much better. So, Harley with a shot that was he was pretty open. And I don't know. Jonathan Quick, could he have stopped it? Maybe. I'm not really going to make a big deal about that one. It was just a horrible, horrible turnover. So it ties it up. And now we go to overtime. And again, the second game that goes past the regulation 60 minutes for the Rangers. It's pretty crazy, in game 40. But that's been the Rangers' game. They win games in regulation and they lose games in regulation. And the Stars are able to gain possession of the puck in overtime, and eventually Artemi Panarin at the 25-second mark hooks Wyatt Johnston. So Johnston beats Trocheck in the faceoff. We know in overtime, 3-on-3, how important it is to have the puck, and the Rangers never saw it. And the Ranger penalty kill, 4-on-3, almost is able to kill it off. They were. But eventually, with, I guess, 8 seconds left on the Panarin penalty, it's Jamie Benn, the captain of the Dallas Stars, scoring his 11th goal of the season, assisted by Robertson and Harley, to give the Stars a 5-4 win. So this was a play where Robertson makes a nice pass to Ben in front, and Adam Fox just couldn't really box out Ben. And, he's able to easily slot it past Jonathan Quick. So, yeah, Dallas wins 5-4. And, another bad loss to Rangers. They get a point, which is not nothing, because I think I have been critical of the fact the Rangers they're losing so many games regulation. But now, I don't know, maybe you look back and this was a key point they got, but also you had a 3-0 lead at home. You haven't won 2 games in a row since November 19th. So I can't be too sympathetic of this of what happened here. Yes, there were some good things that went on, but to me, the bad outweighs it. And now the Rangers will take on the New Jersey Devils, and that has been an absolute nightmare. Really, 2 of their worst losses this year were at the hands of the New Jersey Devils. The Devils are coming off of a West Coast trip. Sometimes the first game back from that, you can be a little bit rusty. They also haven't been playing their best hockey lately. They haven't been bad, in my opinion, but they haven't been great. And so maybe the Rangers catch them at the right time. I'm not so bullish on that, to be honest with you, because I think that the Devils are just simply better. And, I think it's going to be important for the Rangers to not fall behind, because we've seen once they do that against New Jersey, it's over quickly. So they're going to have to, take a lead and keep it, unlike what they did in this game. And it will be interesting again to see. I hope Filip Chytil's all right, but I'm not feeling great about that. And will Matt Rempe be inserted into the lineup? Will Arthur Kaliev make his Ranger debut? So some things to kind of keep an eye out for against the Devils, as well as Igor Shesterkin. Will Shesterkin be back? So, some players are returning. Some players are unfortunately also leaving. And in the case of Kreider and presumably Chytil. So, yeah, another brutal sort of loss to the Rangers. They have a 3-0 lead early. It goes away pretty quickly. The Dallas Stars never had the lead in all of this game until the very end, where Jamie Benn gets the game-winning goal in overtime to give the Stars a 5-4 win at Madison Square Garden.